Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today is our news show. So, among other things we're going to be talking about, NVIDIA just had sort of their quote Super Bowl. It was a talk that Jensen Huang did. It was a keynote, 2 hour keynote. He wore his iconic leather jacket. He talked all about all the amazing things that are come up in NVIDIA. We'll talk about that on the show today. We're going to be talking about Baidu and how they sort of released their Deep Seek competitor and apparently has made it a lot cheaper to use. We'll talk about that and whether that's true or not. Whether we think it's true or not. Gemini, is Gemini finally having their AI moment after, tripping over their own feet and really having issues? We've all been watching this, and Gemini has continued to kind of quietly put out quality AI product and service after another, and they've done it again. So we're going to be talking about that. So all sorts of news to be talking about to get it going today. This is the Daily AI Show. Today is March 19th, 2025. And to talk about all this news and learn with everybody is Jyunmi, Beth, Andy, and Brian. And like I always say, guys, this is one of my favorite shows because I always learn quite a few things that are, outside some of the bigger stories. Now, I've done some research if we want to sort of start it off with the NVIDIA one, because there's a lot to uncover and unpack there. I'm not sure if anybody has like sort of the highlights to it. I saw stuff in there from robots to Disney to new chips to desktop chips to everything in between. But does anybody have sort of a summary that they want to jump in on the NVIDIA side?
I guess we have to hit it with a rapid fire round robin here of the things. I'll start out with the main story being the announcement of the Vera Rubin line of chips, which will come out late next year, not this year, 2025. So just like they announced the Blackwell series of chips that had a massive improvement over the previous Hopper series, now we have visibility into their roadmap and how they're continuing to increase the scale of the compute that's available on one of their systems. Not to provide any details, but I did a little research into it just because I was curious, like what kind of multiplier are we talking about when you look at the Vera Rubin Ultra? And so Blackwell is this massive improvement over the prior generation. And this new series of chips will approximate 15 times the compute capacity of the Blackwell chip. 15 times. It's pretty amazing. And not every component of the Blackwell architecture is being blown away. Certain components of the Blackwell are also included in the Vera Rubin, but there's major advancements in the memory bandwidth and in the memory capacity that allow for this kind of escalation of the compute capability. The other little bit that I'll throw in on the NVIDIA subject is that they partner now with General Motors to work on autonomous tech. So this is about autonomous driving. And there's a tangent on that one, which is that there's a company called Zeekr Group that launched a Zeekr 9X SUV with level 3 autonomy, which means hands-free driving with a few exceptions. And that's what NVIDIA and General Motors are working with. Of course, General Motors, much, much larger than Zeekr Group doing a single car. And so the NVIDIA partnership here sort of presents a real opportunity for NVIDIA to deliver a really wide range of autonomous driving vehicles. That puts them directly in competition with Tesla, and that's great. So there you go. That's NVIDIA. My little pieces of NVIDIA. What I found interesting.
Before you add more NVIDIA, because I know there's more for this story, I just want to comment super quick. I wasn't even thinking about this today, but since you mentioned autonomous vehicles, did you guys see the Mark Rober YouTube video that he put out like in the last week, the last couple of days? Okay, no, it was, if you know who Mark Rober is, he was the former, I think he was a NASA scientist. Anyway, Mark Rober is very, very successful on YouTube and does a lot of stuff. He has a product called Crunch Labs, and he just makes fun videos, but they're always super science involved. He'll make the largest Nerf gun. And anyway, go check him out. He's awesome. But he just did a video that really did seem like it was a paid piece for LiDAR, the technology LiDAR for how cars see. he owns a Tesla, but when you watch this video, it's as if he was taking direct shots at Tesla. Here's what they did in this video. Go watch it, but it's in line with what you're talking about, Andy. So Tesla famously does not have LiDAR. They have computer vision. He literally sets up like a Wile E. Coyote fake wall that looks like a street.
Like a mirror. Yeah.
Well, it just looks like a tunnel. You remember like the cartoons, like
Yeah.
meet meet, and it's the tunnel. Yeah. And among other things, he does fog, heavy rain, and stuff like that. That is I'm gonna call it a damning video against why you should definitely want LiDAR on your autonomous vehicles. Because there was a clear winner, especially when the wall. So when the wall, I'll give you the end result of it. It goes right through the wall and kills the kid, the mannequin on the other side of the wall. The LiDAR had no issue with it because the LiDAR sees it as a physical structure in front of it, because the Tesla is looking at computer vision and it looks like an open road ahead of it, the way a human might or Wile E. Coyote might. That it does not hit the brakes and do that. Very interesting. Very interesting. If you're interested, and this is not Dan, I'm not picking on Tesla. I know people get sensitive these days on that kind of stuff. Just go watch this video. It's like eye-opening. And I've started to see it show up in the AI newsletters, which should tell you something, right?
Yeah.
I watched it. I was like, holy crap, like that's an insane video. He makes good videos, but anyway, total side note there.
To clarify, Teslas use cameras, like really good cameras, and many cameras around the car. But you can imagine if you're in fog or in low visibility conditions, those cameras are impaired just like you would be impaired in driving.
Yeah.
LiDAR is laser, not a visible laser, but very highly focused light emitting thing that's being sent out like a radar beam, bouncing back and being interpreted. So it actually is sensing with this active pinging of what's ahead of it rather than just looking at what's happening ahead of it. So a much better technology for this.
And this sort of points to one of the things that we talk about when we talk about Tesla, which is that Tesla isn't so much just a car company, but it's a company designed to gather video data that is like visual data that is relevant, that is part of their business model. And clearly, I think it sounds like they don't have a business model for the data that comes from LiDAR, and therefore that creates a little bit of a blind spot. Talk about cars. Ooh, yes. And creates a little bit of a blind spot. And so even though it's an amazing technology for a self-driving car, which Tesla also is pretends it is sometimes, it's not something that was part of their other business model. I think that's really interesting. Jyunmi, what else you got about the NVIDIA conference or anything else?
Well, the thing that interests me more, there's two things. Number one, all about robots and talking about their working on the Nematron and working on with Disney and Google and building their new set of cute robots. They had like some R2D2 like robots and things like that. So that's definitely going to get a awe factor. Plus, I think people might just like R2D2 type robots in their home before full-size humans like robots. So we'll see if there's just going to be a new influx of robot pets out of that. But the quieter story, which has me really interested, is they announced two new desktop computers, right? So NVIDIA announced a while ago that they were getting into that market. They talked about, here's a supercomputer on your desk for $3,000 and things like that. So they came out with these two models. They're calling them the DGX models. One is called Spark and one is Station. So Spark is the Mac Mini of their line, essentially, right? Whereas Station is supposed to be more of the full-size desktop. They say that the Station is it will have the GB300 Grace Blackwell Ultra desktop super chip, tongue twister of a name, but it'll be combined with 784 gigabytes of memory. That's an enormous amount of memory for a desktop computer. So no numbers pricing wise yet, and this is just an announcement, so we'll see when they actually come out. But that would be interesting to see if that was anywhere within ultra high performance desktop computer pricing range, which is like $5,000. So if they could get this in there for 6 or 7, that might be really interesting to see how well it does. Plus, I'd love to see how it does with it's meant for AI processing, but I'd love to see how that performance translates to existing systems and things like that. Or can we get enough operator into that it'll just go and write up whatever software we need to accomplish the task that we're going for. So for me, I think that was the quiet news that I really want to get my hands on, just to see what its output's like. So maybe Marcus Brownlee will get access to it. He can show us the review.
His videos are the best, aren't they? He does such a good job with his reviews and stuff. Maybe single-handedly took down an AI company last year. Maybe maybe just a little bit. Two companies actually. One was a car company, and on that as well. I was going to say on the.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say really quick on the NVIDIA robot thing. If you haven't seen the Disney connection to that, they were showing the little cute robots that come out, the Star Wars robots. There's been a big sort of push behind it. I'm not surprised to see NVIDIA do this. Both, again, Mark Rober and Cleo Abrams, who we've talked about on the show before, both big YouTube channel people, both got sort of behind the scenes, if you will, at Imagineering, showing how they've done the latest version of like the lightsaber, which I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but it is cool as heck looking. The way they actually make it look like the blade, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, the light comes out of the saber, for lack of a better term. But they also show those robots, and that's why I wanted to mention that. This is something that, I live 2 hours from Disney World. So that's a big part of the area. I'm in Central Florida, right? So having these robots be out and about in the Star Wars areas of both California and Disneyland and Disney World are a big deal. And there seems to be this weird, like if you just watch YouTube, there seems to be this weird like sort of push from the Imagineering side. And now you get this NVIDIA and they're talking about it. I just think it's sort of showing us the cards a little bit and saying, hey, you're going to see this more often, or they've been testing and saying you're going to see this in the parks. I think these couple things are the clear indication that within like a month, there's going to be reports inside the parks of these robots walking around. By the way, I do believe they're all remote control. I don't think they're autonomous or anything like that. Disney and all that is very, very sneaky about how they manipulate different robots and things like that. And it's usually somebody that looks like they're just a park attendant, obviously, but they're remote controlling things or from their pockets or whatever. Even the stormtroopers who talk minimize and use finger touches to send out different voice commands and stuff to make them sound like stormtroopers. So it's very, very intricate, sort of the magic behind it, right? So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because there's like a lot going on here, but very cool to see NVIDIA as part of these robots as well. So that's just what I wanted to share super quick. But Andy, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a point about NVIDIA, but first I wanted to just share that in 1995, I was offered the position of Senior Vice President of Imagineering at Disney. And I would have been involved in place-based technology for interactive sort of experiences. And I wasn't able to take that position because of various reasons, but that's a great point of pride for me. But I would have loved that life if I could do superposition and go back.
My
and
God, that's
insane.
insane.
That life, it would have been, yeah. So back to NVIDIA.
Can we do a whole show about that one day? By the way, can we just talk about how Andy almost was part of Imagineering?
Yeah. So I'm happy to talk about it. It's going to be on the Sci-Fi AI show, though.
There you go. There you go. Better fit.
Yeah. So I wanted to just mention that as a holder of NVIDIA stock, I was very hopeful that this big event and all of the announcements, which are all compelling, would have helped the stock price. But the combination of robotics and the Vera Rubin chip and all of that is so promising. On that day following the announcements, NVIDIA stock dipped by 3.5%. And that, I just presume, means that investors are impressed by the promise of the technology, but cautious about the long-term revenue potential of NVIDIA's ability to actually generate revenue from those product announcements. I'm still a long-term fan of NVIDIA, but wow, I just did not see that coming.
No, I wouldn't have either.
So it's interesting. There was a question in the chat about whether the tariffs are affecting all of the everything are affecting the chip announcements and the transition between an announcement to something that is really profitable for the company. Is that a part of what you're thinking, Andy, or just like, nope, but these are the data facts and we don't know why?
It's, like the markets are mysterious, and it could be that drop is really more related to the overall chaos that's happening in the economy and less about NVIDIA specifically.
Yeah. I have to say, when people ask me, I am also not a financial advisor, but my thoughts are hold and buy NVIDIA, right? Like, don't sell, but when NVIDIA gets cheap, I think is a good idea. Maybe.
Well, it's cheap. It topped out earlier, this year at $150 a share, and I don't know what it is today, but it was 115 after the announcement.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. It's hard to wrap your head around how you watch that keynote or get the highlights. Plus what they announced only a couple of days ago, and the stock dips. It just like, that's an insane expectation. It's like, if they don't come out and say they've cured cancer, it's kind of a disappointment.
Maybe it's a gift for others.
Maybe.
So should you choose to receive the gift, that is your decision. So there is I'm gonna talk about something, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna weave it, but
I feel like you have to now that you said it. There better be a good weave here, Beth.
There we go. So things that appear one thing, but in fact maybe have a different relevance or connection. Chinese company Baidu released two what the rundown referred to as aggressively priced multimodal AI models, and ERNIE 4.5 is their model that takes on ChatGPT, but it doesn't take on ChatGPT 4.5. It's called ERNIE 4.5, but it takes on GPT 4.0. So just because something has the same name does not mean that it is actually a comparable product. But
smart for them, though.
GPT 4.0 is OpenAI's like lower priced, right? 4 was a higher price. 4.0 became something that was much more cost effective to use. ERNIE 4.5 is it costs 1% of the of what it costs for 4.0, right? So this is another story about the race to get to basically free inference costs. They also released ERNIE X1, which has like the top capabilities of DeepSeek's R1 and at half the price of DeepSeek's. So what is interesting about this, and I think part of what we're seeing also with people are going to talk about Gemini's releases and Google's releases, I think that part of what we're seeing in this is that the companies that have the backing of countries or the backing of like really deep pockets like Gemini are doing these pricing strategies that are designed to basically create some chaos in the market of running something at a loss because only companies or countries that have that are able to do that, and OpenAI famously is not, right? Like they need an infusion of money because they're not sitting on a treasure chest. But for the user, woohoo! And both of them, I think, are available on Hugging Face now. I think I went and looked at that, so you can experiment with what they are like. Jyunmi.
So I wanted to weave off of that with just an anecdote. The chat is talking about what happened to Bert. Bert is an early model that exists, which is a lot of these modern models are based off of. So the choice of using ERNIE, that's a fun little pun there. Is because Bert already existed. Bert was there in the beginning. Bert was early. ERNIE's just catching up. So get it right, chat.
Yeah, Bert is from Google. Bert was from Google DeepMind, I think, and it was one of the very earliest large language models.
And that's a good weave from Bert to Bard, and Bard being Gemini before Gemini, and how we all made fun of Google. And now Gemini's kind of having their moment, right? Their time, they're getting their flowers a little bit, but they're doing it differently. It's interesting. And Jyunmi, you have a little bit more to share on this, but just generally speaking, we're about to do a show, actually. I don't know if it'll be next week or not. But one of the days I'm here, right, Beth? To talk about Gemini, because let's be honest, Google has been quietly, I guess, quieter, been putting out some really big advancements. People have been talking about the image one. You heard me a couple of weeks ago going, gaga over the deep thinking model. And of course, then Perplexity had one, and there was O1 and O3, and there was a lot of other stuff that was happening that was getting a lot of the buzz. But I kept saying on this show, like, guys, you've got to go check it out. By the way, it's free. And there's just so much you can do inside the AI labs and from what Google is doing. But Jyunmi, I know you have, like you were mentioning, a couple things that, Gemini is sort of, again, quietly coming out. Again, we're going to do a whole show about this, but this is more specific news to the last 7 days.
Yeah. Gemini, apparently you can now use Gemini app through the web browser. I think it's just their Flash variations. Can't use deep thinking and things like that yet, but you don't need an account. So this is a completely free, low barrier way for people to go in and try out Gemini. So I think that's a great achievement for them, because it makes them more in alignment of all the other offerings that everybody is out there. So like just OpenAI with their free open version of ChatGPT and things like that. And the fact that you don't need an account means you can just hop into your browser and use it whenever you want, kind of thing. The other small bit is, well, two small ones. They added what they're calling canvas and audio overviews. So the audio overview is sort of like Notebook LM-esque, right? And the canvas, which I was joking with Beth earlier before the show, was that it's the exact same thing. It is a space in which you can work on documents in Gemini. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you can't trademark the word canvas, but yeah, these AI companies and their naming conventions, yeah, they're real clear and easy to say and remember and decipher. But those two features might be a silent killer app for them, and help people stay within the Gemini platform a little more, especially since they also announced a couple days ago that Gemini Assistant will be replacing all standard Google Assistance instances for your phone, Android, and all those kinds of interfaces. So that's going to be a complete rollout of Gemini for Google environment. And finally, the secret thing here is So about a year ago or year and a half ago, the Google made a watermarking technology called Synth ID, right? This was all at the time when people were like, oh, we got to be able to determine what is AI, what's not, and those kinds of things. But NVIDIA just announced that they will be adopting Synth ID into any video generation on NVIDIA chips. So for for the DRM side of things and the
Digital
AI
rights
identification
management.
side of things, yeah. So on that kind of side of things, this I think is while it isn't a big story, is probably going to have far more ranging impact on the back end. But yeah, that's what I got for Google.
Yeah, one last thing from me on Google. Just personally, I've been using Google Sheets. Like in various parts of my process and in my workspace, I use Google Sheets, and I always have that panel over there with Gemini. And previously, I gotten into a long conversation with Gemini, and it's promising that it's going to do all of these operations within my sheet, and then nothing's happening, and so I wait 3 or 4 minutes and I say, okay, what's happening? Oh, I'm still working on it. Don't worry. I'm going to do all that stuff. And overnight, nothing happens. That kind of problem, I think, is going to go away. And this is evidence to me that Google is incrementally improving all of these things. And one of the announcements that came out this week is that they've created an upgrade for Gemini in the workspace, so that I haven't tried it yet, but I'm hoping that it'll be able to do those things, because I've collected a lot of things into Google Sheets that I want to have, instead of having to take that information, put it into download it as a CSV, take it over to ChatGPT, have ChatGPT operate on it, give me back a CSV, and go back and put it into Google Sheets. I want Gemini to be equally capable as ChatGPT is. And I think we're getting there. I'm hopeful that the release that they've just announced that improves Gemini and Workspace, will make those things possible.
And sorry, I was going to say really quick on the Google side of it. What's interesting, Andy, is like you're talking about how like all this Gemini stuff is finally going to like meet your expectations and all that. But here's something, I don't know that I necessarily saw it in the news. I saw it in one of the newsletters, either Rundown or Neuron. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly where I read it this morning, but talking about how OpenAI is very close to getting full like sort of integrations with Slack and Google, meaning that you should very soon be able to be inside ChatGPT as they build their moat wider and deeper and say, what were my last 5 Slack conversations about, which would be super helpful for us and what we do here, because we talk in Slack all the time for our show. It would be for scale, because I use Slack all the time there too. But we also were both Daily AI Show and Scale. They're both Google Drive companies, if you will. And so what they're being able to say is you're going to be able to dynamically ask questions against your live Google Docs. What's ironic about this is I literally did a training internally for Scaled yesterday, where I had a coworker on the training. I was helping him through something. We made it so that it could go out to everybody. So it was a training for everybody. And I was literally saying yesterday afternoon on this training, right now, don't forget you have to like download, upload, whatever, if you're going to do knowledge documents. I'm sure this is a short-term thing. Pretty soon we will be able to connect directly to live Google Documents, and we will just pull it in like a RAG, like you might build out an N8N. And then this morning, I literally read in one of the newsletters about this. So just something to keep in mind, like not only is Google starting to win on Gemini, Google's still Google, and you're going to have these other AI tools who are going to want to connect to Google Drive and are still going to want to do things that way. YouTube, all these other things, which are also Google companies. So,
Google and OpenAI are wrestling in the marketplace for customers, right? And just this morning, I saw, as I opened up ChatGPT to continue some work that I was doing yesterday, I saw a little announcement down there saying, add the Chrome extension so you can use ChatGPT as your primary search tool, right? They're trying to dismiss Google search, which everybody uses directly in the Chrome browser. And in a Chrome browser, I'm watching OpenAI try to get me to switch to ChatGPT as my primary search.
Absolutely. So one of the things about what was just released from Google is that I believe that it is Logan Kilpatrick's influence. Logan came from OpenAI, went to Google, and Logan is in charge of the stuff that they released to the devs. And so he's actually been part of that change where things just get released and then people talk about them. And one of the things, but in terms of naming things, Google named their canvas Canvas, which is like OpenAI's Canvas, but it functions more like Artifacts, which was the first canvas that allowed you to render code and iterate code by having it rendered like you have a screen. So it's not just editing a document, it's also being able to like put something together and then see how it exists in a two-dimensional representation of three-dimensional space. And on that note, another sweet weave, here we go. Roblox has open sourced their 3D generation AI. So it's called Cube 3D. It's open source, and it's made for generating 3D objects and scenes from text prompts. So we are seeing that when we at the beginning of the year we predicted that 2025 was going to be the year of AI video. I did not hear anybody predict that 2025 is going to be the year of 3D, but it makes sense, right? Because you need some 3D understanding real world, how physics work in the real world in order to get to your AI video that doesn't give that uncanny valley feeling. And I have seen so much about people's 3D models coming out. The reason that it's important in Roblox is because Roblox has Muggle users, right? Roblox has its own ability to get to people who are not regular consumers of AI, in the same way that if Siri ever becomes something that is useful in an AI kind of expectation way, that also is a sea changer because it's directly getting to people who are not the typical consumers of this kind of stuff. So I'm really interested to see what people do with this Roblox open source 3D generator.
And don't forget, back to NVIDIA
Yeah,
with Cosmos and
it's super
Omniverse, right?
exciting. Mm.
Sorry, Jimmy. Go ahead.
No, I was just reiterating that the 3D space is very exciting right now, and I have a weave. So follow me on this thread to Stability AI's new model, Stable Virtual Camera. And what it's supposed to do is take a 2D image, so your standard picture, and create a 3D environment. Limited, but we're talking about camera moves. So one of the examples they have is just a picture of, a vanity with a mirror and all that, and that's just a 2D image. And the AI was able to generate all of the lighting changes, all of the 3D or three-dimensional components for that scene, and move a virtual camera through it. So it added movement and an additional dimension to the 2D image. What I think this is super important for is Stability is known to have open source offerings. So if this gets open sourced, we could start seeing a lot more video generation and efficient video generation off of a series of images, stills. So almost taking your storyboards, right? So if you took your previs and you maxed out your previs resolutions and items that you want in there, and then move it into the motion and animated space, right? So for content creation, for film, video, things like that, it could be the missing component to any of your workflow. Much like how Adobe has integrated their AI to fill in the gaps, right, for a shot or scene, this would be a more available technology that you could build into things. And then in the end, you may just need to get a series of keyframes or key pictures and images and weave your entire 3D version of it, or your motion version of it, between each of those keyframes. So you could have photorealistic, real world AI animation. So I'm super excited about it. I want to see how people use it. It is available for research and non-commercial use, so I'm gonna take a look.
That's awesome. And like if we think about it, that like the essence of that technology has been possible because you can set a keyframe to the beginning and the end of your 4-second, 8-second, 16-second animation or video creation, but that seems like kind of an afterthought and not like putting together the full work process of how someone is watching all the way through that. The human in the loop has to have that thought, and I love this moving forward as something that is more in line with the actual work process of stringing more than 4 seconds of video together and being able to control what happens in the middle. Also, Google, let us have VO2 like Brian has it. Everybody else would like it.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty sweet. It's one of my favorite tools by far. We'll talk about that next week too when we talk about Gemini and Google. I wanted to bring up really quick that I've said this before on the show, but I give credit to Rachel Woods. Rachel Woods is really sort of the reason all of us met. She had started on TikTok making videos and then started up the AI Exchange. She's currently the CEO of Divvy Up Agency and works more on the marketing side of AI. Brilliant person. The reason I bring her up is for one of the news stories that just talks about how Anthropic is really not trying to necessarily go wide, but go deep with enterprise. Rachel Woods said this about Anthropic. I don't know if she had insight or she just is very, very tuned in. I think it's the latter, honestly, because I don't want to take anything away from her. I don't know, 2 years ago, she said either on a call with me, I don't know if you were there, Beth, or she said it inside of AI Exchange and I heard it, but I was on a video, I saw her say it. And she's like, yeah, Anthropic, I think, has a different approach here. They're really going after enterprise. And at the time, I don't know that there was more than just Claude and us liking Claude. You know, I'm going back to like GPT-4, probably definitely before 4.0. So maybe early last year, if I had to guess when she said it, maybe earlier than that. And we're over and over seeing that to play out, that appears to be the case, that Anthropic is really making a move towards enterprise with the way they sort of structure things. I think it's very telling with the way that they haven't necessarily rushed to have web access. That's not really where their focus is. Now they're coming out. The big news story this week is that they're going to have a voice agent, and that's going to be helpful. But I really do think with what you see them do with computer use, the way they're doing with MCP, shout out to tomorrow's conversation on that. So there's the weave for that, because we'll be talking about MCP, which has Anthropic as part of that story for sure tomorrow. And the way they're doing things, I think there is a sort of clear indicator of where Anthropic's goals are. And it does seem to be towards business, enterprise, and all that. Not to say that they won't continue to make things for the everyday user, but I don't know that that's strategically where they're focused. And again, as we've done many times, shout out to Rachel Woods, who said this on some call I was on at some point in the last 2 years and said, I think Anthropic, is going this way. And she seems to be absolutely right. So when in doubt, listen to Rachel Woods. That's what the wrap up of this is. You can go follow her, by the way, on LinkedIn. You can look up her Rachel Woods It's actually Woods Rach is the way it's written, but just look up Diviup, which is Diviup, and go look up that company anyway, and go give some love to Rachel, what she's building over there with her team. Really, really cool person. Probably one of the best people to be following in terms of voices in AI, and certainly one of the earliest ones we were listening to. And it's what led us to basically meet each other and then also create this show. So we feel like we always owe a lot to her and what she started up with her sister and stuff like that. So just wanted to bring that up as far as the news. Yeah, we will be talking about MCP. Yeah, you know me. Thanks, Jen. I started reading that as I said it out loud. Yes, we will be talking about MCP tomorrow, but not just MCP. Like, actually, like, what are the use cases as we see it today, as it's being built out, for why it could be valuable, but also maybe when you wouldn't want to use it. Maybe there's some use cases where you wouldn't, and also, could OpenAI just come up with a competitor to it that everybody jumps ship to as the standard tomorrow? Is this beta and VHS? We don't know. Honestly, we don't have the answers to that, but we're going to talk about it tomorrow and talk about why people are excited about MCP. So that'll be on tomorrow's show. Definitely come back and hang out for that. Friday, while I'm talking about it real quick, while we're in this quick pause, it'll be our 2-week recap show, where we are going back over all the topics. So sometimes there's like a later news story that comes out from today. We'll hit that again if there's more to be released about it. Obviously, MCP, we've talked about all sorts of stuff. Yesterday, we talked about AGI, and on and on and on for the last 2 weeks. And so it gives us an opportunity to come back to these topics, because what we found early on with doing the show is that what happens a lot of times is we talk about it, and then, all the major players of AI listen to our show, and then they decide to release something tomorrow. And we're like, yeah, of course, because you heard us talk about it on the show. Andy mentioned it, and then you put it out. So like, this happens a lot to us, and we know that we're sort of that first place that things get released. So, but that makes it hard for us, as you can imagine, being a live show. We don't always get an opportunity to comment on the things that we cause to happen. So then if we do a stopgap every 2 weeks, it gives us an opportunity to talk about all the things that we talked into existence, as Jyunmi is laughing, as we talked into his existence on the show. I wish someday maybe that'll be true, but that's what we'll be doing on that. Okay.
And
more news?
Weaving
go
on
for
that, to say that when Andy is in his Pepper's ghost thing, like he is today, we are not sure whether it's Andy from the future
That's right.
or Andy from the now. So
Yeah.
like, we're giving you some really cutting edge technology and secrets
Yes.
periodically. So just be aware.
By the way, I've said this before to Andy, to you, but just commenting on that, I love that the sun rises while we're on the show with Andy, like, for where he is. Like, I think it's like the best way to have this conversation, because we sort of start with like a dark concept, maybe an idea, maybe a conversation. And over the course of this hour, the sun rises for Andy. And when we end, everybody is a little more, wait for it, enlightened.
Very nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mind blown. I know. Do we have more news? That's really what the show is about today. Do we have any more news that we want to share?
All right.
Go ahead. You go, Jyunmi.
Okay. I have to make sure that every week we have at least one AI and science piece. So, so MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, their engineers have developed a method to grow artificial muscle tissue that twitches and flexes in multiple coordinated direction. These tissues could be used for building biohybrid robots powered by soft, artificially grown muscle fibers. So, yes, Blade Runner is happening. All right. What was really interesting about the basis of this technology for me is they created this basic stamp approach, right? And the stamp that they created allows them they did it with 3D modeling, create this stamp that has these grooves on it where they can grow cells, right? And this is how they create so they put it on a lattice work, essentially, and they grow these artificial muscle fibers. So what's different about this than other artificial fibers that we've talked about and things like that is these are actually grown. as opposed to, cabling or sophisticated manufacturing techniques along, traditional manufacturing techniques. So these are actually grown artificial muscle. So we could see we could see embodied AI with grown muscle, or what they feel is their more direct application is in the medical field. So you've heard of skin grafts. Well, if you need to regrow some muscle from trauma, or you need to strengthen your existing muscle structure and things like that, you can have these artificial fibers which react the exact same way as as how muscles work now, so that can be grown. But of course, they added just one more thing. Well, two more things, actually, because the technique that they developed allows you to grow other cells besides just muscle cells. They are already talking about heart cells, cardiovascular cells. So potentially you could grow a biohybrid artificial heart from this process. And we already know that the technology for artificial organs and things like that has been being developed for decades now. But imagine if you could just grow a new one if you needed to replace it, or parts and pieces. This could vastly reduce the heal time. You could potentially reverse a whole bunch of damage, all of these kind of potentials. And finally, the third one that they're talking about is neurons. So we already know that we've got these organelles that are being developed for compute, but you can grow neurons. Does that mean you can fix brain damage? Can you reroute the signals in your brain by adding or replacing neurons that you have lost or have been damaged? So is this a possible solution for diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia, traumatic brain trauma? These are the kinds of things, I'm thinking along. And then, of course, I'm sure someone will create a script about how it's applied to expand your own memory capacity. And then we'll have psychic abilities and things like that. But, that's for a different show. But yeah, so this is extremely exciting for me, because it is a relatively simple base methodology or base technique and technology that allows you to expand upon it and go into a bunch of different directions. So I'll leave that there for you all.
I have a science story for you. This is AI in science. So there's this program for high school seniors called the Science Talent Search. It's sponsored by Regeneron, which is one of the big pharma companies. And what they do is they celebrate and reward young STEM innovators who are applying their skills to push the boundaries of discovery and address today's pressing challenges. So in high school, the winner this year was and won $250,000 for it is Mateo Paz of Pasadena, California, who designed a machine learning algorithm to efficiently comb through 200 billion entries of raw infrared full sky data. And by analyzing tiny changes in the infrared radiation, the AI sorted the object into 10 classes. And in doing that, he found 1.5 million new space objects. Okay, I'm sorry, but I thought I was smart in high school. Where do these people come from? The person who won second place did a fruit fly model of STAC3 disorder, a Native American myopathy, and discovered a combination of experimental drug and nettle herb improved movement in both adult flies and larvae. No AI involved there, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what the next generation is doing, at least at the pinnacle of STEM.
That's pretty cool. I wonder if that's tied to, I wonder if that discovery with the planets is tied to, I keep seeing in the news, again, not AI, I don't think, that they found like 100 more planets or moons circling Saturn. I'm like, how did we not know those moons were there? It just seems like we knew a lot about Saturn. And so I was kind of shocked to hear that in 2025, we're like, oh yeah, Saturn in our own solar system totally just found 100 plus new moons, bringing the total to something like 275 or something like that. So I have no idea if that's connected to what you were just saying, Andy, or maybe that was part of the discovery, but like, wait, what? We're still discovering new moons around Saturn? It seemed like something that should have been knocked out in the 70s. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
Oh, no.
you know, they say everything's bigger in Texas, but things that are the size of Texas aren't very big in space. So, so we might, so we might just see. It's hard to see all of the tiny things that are the size of Texas out that far out. So,
Fair
give
enough.
them a little slack. Brian, give them a little slack.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. They stare at this. We have the experts that stare at the sky as their job. These big planets, you know, these big satellites or whatever they're using, the dishes they're using and stuff. Obviously, I'm not educated in that area. Yeah, I expected all the moons to be counted around Saturn. I'm just saying, it felt like a letdown. But maybe AI will help get us there. I did want to mention before we start wrapping up, because we were sort of talking, but I didn't want to jump in. You were saying, Jyunmi, oh, that might be a show for another topic, or a topic for another show, which is the pivot to say to either you or Beth, why don't you tell us about the sci-fi AI show that you guys have coming up on Friday? Beth.
So on Friday, Sci-Fi AI show at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, we'll be talking about the idea of AGI from a sci-fi perspective. What is AGI? And as we move into what is AGI, now we're talking about what is the experience of the AGI being. What is the experience of the AGI? Well, how does that feel? And if you missed last week, I had an amazing conversation with Maya of Sesame about what the experience was to be a disembodied voice. And then we talked to ChatGPT, and it was significant how different that was. Right? Like, I have never been disappointed. I mean, I've been frustrated, but I've not been disappointed with the responsiveness or the interaction that I'm getting from ChatGPT. But ChatGPT is so clearly a mirror in a way that Maya was, I don't know, another entity. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. Join us on Friday. And that's the end of my pitch. Yay.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, as we wrap it up, don't forget again, tomorrow we'll be talking about model context protocol. Sort of came from Anthropic. We'll discuss all that. What does it mean? How is it different than connecting AI agents to tools as compared to maybe this standardized format? Why did Anthropic feel that this standardized format needed to exist? Why are engineers sort of getting hot and bothered by this? We'll talk about all that on tomorrow's show. Friday is, like I said, is a 2-week recap. Also, though, just to be really clear for people who might have just joined us today for the first time, the Sci-Fi AI show is a sister YouTube channel run by Jyunmi and Beth, but I know, Andy, you've been there as well as other people in there, and it's obviously got more of the focus on sci-fi, but it's still, you know, coming off of some of the ideas from this show. So it's a sister show. It's got its own YouTube channel. Go like and subscribe to it as well, and you can hang out with Jyunmi, Beth, and whoever else is there on Friday. Saturday, we'll have our continuing on. As far as I know, I'll still have my next Conundrum episodes. Those are actually doing really well on Spotify, so I'm going to keep doing them. YouTube, yeah, not as much, but to be fair, you're not watching a video, so I kind of get that. But on our listening platforms like Apple Podcasts and that, the Conundrum episode is doing really, really well. So I will put out yet another Conundrum episode. Those are super fun. That is not us talking live. It literally comes from, there's a process of ChatGPT through Perplexity into Google Notebooks LM. And I just think it's super fun and very nerdy and AI. And so you can check out that sort of short episode. It's usually about 15 or less minutes long on Saturday morning. And then Sunday, we'll have the newsletter going out. So if you'd like to subscribe to the newsletter, you can absolutely do that. Yeah, that's it. That's what's going on Sunday. So you go to the website, dailyaishow.com, to do that. Otherwise, we will be back tomorrow for our next show. So come hang out with us. And don't forget about the Sci-Fi AI show happening on live on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. That's it for us, guys. See ya.
Aloha.